Hello and welcome back. In the previous video, we saw what are logic apps, and I hope you have a good understanding of what are logic apps and when to use them, how to use them, and why they are so good, right? Let's see why you should use logic apps. There are plenty of other options out there. You can use any of the programming languages to build the exact same situation, exact same scenario, you know and many of these new programming languages are fairly easy and robust to build as well. But why you should use logic apps to build this type of flows, right? So first of all, it has the visual workflow, right? That's pretty standard. That's very easy to build upon. Something that you see and you're building it. You're configuring, you're adding and dragging a shape, various action items, and then you're configuring them. So anything visual is much easier to build. It's easier to, fix if something goes wrong. Sorry. So it's visual design of the workflow, and using them you can build APIs, and so you can use logic apps to visually design all of your workflows, orchestrate anything that you want within your application using logic apps. You can even build APIs. You can build a logic app and then expose that as an API. Based on my experience, I've tried comparing building an API with a traditional programming language and with logic app. A simple API very probably accept few fields and then dump them in a database and return a response back. With a traditional programming language like C# or even Python or anything else, it would take you a few hours to build that API. With logic apps, you can build them like that in few minutes, test them, and deploy them in a production ready environment, and not have to worry about how much processing power you need or what software has been installed or not, right? So it's fairly intuitive to use logic apps, and you can automate a lot of tasks without writing a single line of code. In this time where the human capital is really crucial and important, right? You want to automate as much as you can, right? So that you can use the other human capital for something more important, right? So rather than having someone sit on a desk and a computer and enter data, and sync multiple systems, you can use a logic app to automate a lot of tasks, right? For example, if you want to build a workflow to allow your manager to approve a project or even a leave of his employee, right? Using logic apps, it's fairly easy, right? And then another important aspect of logic apps is that you can build it using any browser. You don't need to install any IDE, even though you can use Visual Studio. It's very good UI there as well. But you don't have to. You can just use any browser, Internet Explorer, Edge, or Chrome, or any browser of your choice, and build all of the logic apps right there. Build there, test there, and save, right? That's as easy as it can get. Plus, Logic App comes with plenty of out-of-the-box connectors to connect to a lot of cloud-based systems, right? So you don't have to build an API connector. Let's say if you want to connect to Twitter, there is a Twitter connector ready for you. You don't need to sign up as a developer with Twitter. You don't need to find which API to use. Everything is right there. All of the connectors are available at your fingertips. You want to connect to Facebook, there are connectors. You want to connect to Dynamics 365 CRM, there is an existing connector. You want to connect to Active Directory, Azure AD, the connector is there. There are literally hundreds of connectors out there to connect to any kind of system from within Logic Apps. So you don't have to spend time to build the connection to all of these systems, right? Also, not just cloud, you can use Logic Apps to connect to many of your on-premises systems, right? So let's say if you have a SQL Server, a database that's on-premises, right? You can build, you can use a Logic Apps data gateway that would enable connectivity with your on-premises SQL Server. So if you're building a workflow using Logic Apps where you need to insert or look up some data from your on-premises SQL database, you can do that very easily. So these are some of the great advantages of using Logic Apps. Plus, one of the biggest advantages, you only pay for what you use. So let's say you have 100 users, and when they use your workflow, that's what you pay. And when you get 100,000 users, they all will be served without any delays, and you would pay for them. And then when next day you only have 1,000 users, you would only pay for 1,000 users. So unlike your traditional servers where you have to, hire a server, pay for using a certain amount of processing power, and it's not easily extendable, and if you have 100 users, you still are paying for all of the CPU capacity. And if you have 100,000 users, you're probably overutilized and you don't have enough resources to serve all of your users, right? So with Logic Apps, you only pay for what you use. This is one of the greatest advantage of using Logic Apps. Another, not the least, but still very important, you don't have to worry about any licensing, right? So if you had a server, you have to buy a license for Windows, right? If you are using any particular system, you need to license that out. If you have a SQL server, you're licensing that. But if you're building a Logic app, you don't have to worry about licensing, right? I hope you understand why you should use Logic Apps, right? I hope it's all making sense to you. If it's not, if you don't understand anything, please go ahead and ask question in the Slack. And if you have any specific question, please go ahead and ask them, right? But this is just getting started. So make sure you understand everything. Logic Apps are a very crucial component of the integration offerings in Azure. Don't worry, we are going to build many Logic Apps throughout this course. So we're just getting started, right? Thank you very much. I'll see you in the next video.